Rishus, Choshev Hanholos HaYeshiva, Rabbeim, and you B'nai Torah, who I'm really not sure why I'm here speaking to you about Elul and chuva, because B'nai Torah, whose lives, whose days are involved in Limud HaTorah, certainly don't need to hear about chuva, I would think, and certainly not in a yeshiva like Ohr Somayach, who your lives are built on ladders that reach Shamayim with chuva. The mitzvah of vidui, the Rambam says, is comprised of three parts. Charata ala ovar, Kabbalah ala osid, upirid achet. The first thing the person has to do is regret the mistake. If you don't regret the mistake, the word returning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes no sense. That's charata. Kabbalah ala osid, many regrets in life. But if a person doesn't make an acceptance in the future, not to revisit the mistakes that they made, then all you have is a life full of regrets. So tshuva necessitates charata, regret, Kabbalah, acceptance in the future, to the best of our ability not to return to that mistake. And finally, pirat hachet. It needs vidui. The person has to verbally express the error of their ways in order to complete the process of tshuva. And I wonder, why is there such a necessity? I know what I'm regretting. I know what I'm accepting. To whom do I have to say pirat hachet? For whom do I have to say vidui? For whom do I have to verbally express the mistake that I made? I don't have to say it loud enough for the rabbi to hear it. I don't have to say it loud enough for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to hear it. That's not loud. The only one who's going to hear my vidui is me. What is the necessity? I know the mistake that I made. And I know the acceptance that I made for the future. Why is it necessary for me to say, I did this error? So, Eisen Akasha, what's the necessity of it? And that's the first part of what we would like to focus on. We're all familiar with the parsha of Shoftim. The Torah tells us, Shoftim v'shoitrin titin l'cha b'chol she'orecha. The Torah says you should put judges, officers, who will see to it to enforce the halachas of the Torah, the judgment of the judges, b'chol she'orecha. And there's a fascinating medrash which you probably are familiar, and the medrash says the following. Shoftim v'shoitrin titin l'cha b'chol she'orecha. On a pasuk in Mishlei, Leich el nemola otzel, go to the ant, you lackadaisical person, ure'ei darkeha v'chakem. See the ways of the ant and become wise. There's what to learn. Asher ein lo kotzin shaiter u'moshel. The ant has no judge, no enforcers, no police, no one to train it, to tell it what to do. And you're probably familiar with the first part of the medrash that says that the ant is very fastidious and gathers a lot of grain, more than he needs in his lifetime. But there's another medrash, Rabbi, which continues. Ma re'ei darkeha v'chakem. What are you supposed to learn from the ant? Rabbanan Amri, the opinion of the Rabbanan is re'ei derech eretz sheyesh bo sheberachas min hagezel. Take a look at the characteristic that this ant has. It's derech eretz. I don't have to translate that. That sheberachas min hagezel, she runs away from thievery. And the Medrash continues, Amar Reb Shimon ben Chalafta, he tells a story about an ant that was carrying a grain of wheat, dropped it down in a public thoroughfare where there are many other ants, and not one ant touched it. Every ant went by, sniffed it, I guess smelled its pheromone. I don't know how the science of it works, but everyone realized it was not their grain of wheat, so they didn't touch it. At the end of the day, this first ant came back, she found her grain of wheat, and she walked off with it. Says the Medrash, this is what Rabbanan say, Reb Shimon ben Chalafta says, look at it. Look at the wisdom that this ant has. Loi shayfet v'loi shayter yeshla, has no judges, has no officers to enforce. Hasher ein lo kotzir shayter u'moshel, nobody to direct it and train it. Atem, you, Yidden, sheminisi lochem shayftim v'shaytim, the Rebbeinu Shalom says. I gave you shayftim v'shaytim to help you, to direct you, and to guide you. Halachas kama v'kama, so surely you should have that derech eretz. And be careful not to steal. Not a beautiful medrash? You could learn thievery from an ant. Asks the Chidush Yarim, learn not to steal from an ant. An ant is the biggest thief that exists in the world. Where did the ant get that piece of chocolate cake? From your picnic. Where did the ant get that grain of wheat? Did she plow the field? Did she plant? Did she harvest? Whatever an ant has, she's the biggest thief in the world. Whatever she has, she stole. So what do you mean learn thievery from an ant? It's not a bomb kasha. That's the kasha that the Chidush Yarim asks. Says the Chidush Yarim, the ant created its own system of values. It decided what's honesty and what's integrity. She has no shaiter. She has no shayfet. She has no one to guide her and teach her what's morally right and moral or incorrect. She decided on her own what's thievery. She's not going to take the piece of wheat that belongs to someone else. Givaldik, honor amongst thieves. But she's the biggest thief in the world. Says the Chidush Yarim, if you don't have shayftim v'shaytrim, if you don't have a Torah that guides us and teaches us what is morally correct, what are the character traits that a person should have, you could be the biggest thief in the world and think you're the greatest tzaddik in the world. The ant believes that she's careful with Gizela and she's the biggest thief. Because ein lo shayfer v'shayter. Because she doesn't have who to guide her. She created her own society of morals and character traits. And we know what the world looks like without a Torah to guide us. You don't need Mishalim about born this, changed that, decided this, I'm walking down the middle. The whole world is upside down. The whole world has gone nuts. Because ein lo shayfet v'shayter. We created our own, not we, they created their own system of what's morality, what's integrity, what's appropriate and proper. Says the Chidush Yarim, that's what the Medrash is teaching you. That the ant believes she's honest. I have a cousin in Los Angeles who told me, and this goes back like 40 years ago. He said there was a case in Los Angeles that there was a meckler, an agent who made deals. He brought the deals together, an intermediary man. And he put together a deal between a group of non-Jews and a Yid, a Shayma Torah mitzvahs. The deal went through. He went to the Gentiles and asked them for his commission because he was a broker. He gets a commission. They paid him a commission. Rahman al-Islam, I'm sorry to share this with you. They went to the Fruma Yid and he asked for his commission. We never made up a commission. I don't know what you're talking about. The deal was that I would get a broker's commission. I never made up a commission. Unfortunately, it had to go to court. The case was a slam dunk on the same day that it went to court because the non-Jews testified, yes, that was the agreement, that there would be a commission from both sides. So this other fellow lost. The judge said, you're a liar, pay him the commission. As soon as the judge gave his ruling, this Yid gets up, walks across the courtroom to the other fellow, sticks out his hand and says, you can't blame me for trying. Gezel from a Namola. Because people think in business is business. Whatever you can get away with in business, you can get away in business. And that's morally okay. That's the lesson the Chidush Yarim tells us, to learn from the Namola. There's another place you could learn this lesson. A parsha that we read recently. This is such a fascinating parsha. When a person goes out to war and he sees this beautiful woman, you're probably familiar with these psukim. He sees this beautiful woman and he desires her. You capture this beautiful woman. And you see, she's a yefas toyar. She's gorgeous. V'choshakta ba. It's important to remember this word. And you desire her. If you know Ivrit, if you know Lashon Kodesh, the word cheshek means what? Desire. I have a cheshek I want to learn a blat Gemara. I have a cheshek to become a Talmud Chacham. I have a desire. V'choshakta ba. You'll desire her. So the Torah says, what do? You take her for a wife. You bring her to your house. And the Torah gives you a system of what you should do. You shave off her beautiful hair. You let her nails grow long. You remove the enticing garment that they used to wear during war times to entice the soldiers. And you let her bemoan for 30 days in your home on the loss of her idolatry, of her family, of her parents. An interesting word that the Torah uses, ubachsa es avia ve'es ima yerech yomim. It's an odd word to use. It means a monthly time. Should have said shloshim yom, 30 days. Chaydesh yomim, yerech. We'll see what that means. And then the Torah says, v'haisem lo chafatzta ba. And what happens if you don't desire her? So there's a process. You cannot humble her. You cannot mistreat her. You have to send her off in a nice way. Right? Torah tells you don't abuse the situation. But when the Torah tells you if you don't desire her, it changes the word. Instead of saying choshakta ba, you desire her, the Torah says v'hoya imloi chafatzta ba. Chafetz, ani chafetz means I want, I desire. Why does the Torah change the terminology from cheshek, desire, to chafetz, desire? One question. Another question. Chazal tell us that the reason for this mitzvah, or the reason this mitzvah was given, or the parameters of this mitzvah are that you want to be minavel her. You want to make her look unkempt. You want it to be unkempt. The other Jewish women shouldn't be jealous. Took this one. So she should look a little bit unkempt for 30 days, and you see her that way, and perhaps that will bring you to not wanting to desire her. One more piece that Chazal say, that the Rebbeinu Shalom permitted this because even though in the end he's not going to want her, but the Yetzer Hara is so strong that if the Torah would not permit this, the person would do the Aveira and take her anyway as she is. There's two things that you can see from that. If the Torah tells you here that this challenge is so strong that you probably won't be able to rise to the occasion, it means that the other 612 mitzvahs of the Torah knows that we have the capability and the capacity to rise to the occasion. And it's not something which is so overwhelming that you'll do the Aveira. One thing. But another thing that we have to ask is, if the Rebbeinu Shalom knew that this is a challenge that's so great that if it wouldn't permit, the Torah wouldn't permit you, you would do the Aveira anyway, why'd you give such a mitzvah? The purpose of the mitzvahs is to develop ourselves. Lo nitna Torah elo letzaref es habriyas, the Ramban says, Torah was given to us to polish us, to perfect us, to elevate us. Why would the Rebbeinu Shalom give a mitzvah that he knows up front you're probably not going to be able to rise to the occasion? So we have to make a whole system to... Do you hear the question? Very challenging, very odd. And the language. Cheshek, chefetz. Why does the Torah change the language? The Vilna Gaon, in the story of Shechem ben Hamor, if you remember, Shechem kidnaps Dinah and lives with her, and Hamor, his father, comes to Yaakov Avinu, and he tries to defend his son Shechem, and he says, Shechem beni, my son Shechem, choshka nafshoy bedina. His soul desires Dinah, using the word cheshek, strong desire. Rashi on the spot says one word, choshka choftza. He changes the cheshek to chofetz. Just like here it changes it. Rashi changes it there. What Rashi thought that you didn't know what the word cheshek meant, so he had to tell you it's the word chofetz. So the Gaon explains like this. The word cheshek is a terminology that's used for spiritual things. For dvorim l'shem shemayim, for ruchnius. I have a cheshek to learn a blat Gemara. Although sometimes you may hear someone say, I have a cheshek for a good pizza. But cheshek is an expression that's used for l'shem shemayim, for spiritual development. Chofetz, desire, is a terminology used for physical things. Chafetzim, objects, not chashekim. Cheshek is l'shem shemayim. Chefetz is for physical things. And I would like to apply that Vilna Gaon here, and I believe I may have heard this from Rabbi Isaac Osban, Zechron Levracha, one of the Rosh Yeshivas tells. And the pshat is like this. Who's going out to war? Big, brawny soldiers? No. Pasuk already filtered out who goes to war. Someone who's not a Yerei Chet. Someone who does not fear that he may have Averis that will not let him survive the war. Someone, the Gemara says, who doesn't speak even between the Shal Yad and the Shal Rosh. You're talking about tzaddikim. You're talking about Yarei Shamayim. They're the ones going out to war. How did he fall into this Eishes Yifas Toyar? How did he fall into a desire, an overwhelming, powerful desire that he saw this captive woman who's so gorgeous? I have to have her. What happened? How's that possible? Well, it's like Chazal say, it's such a strong challenge that even the most holy, even the most righteous may, and not probably, but may fall into it. And if they do fall into it, they probably won't survive it. It's not everybody will fall into it. If a person does give in to his Yetzer Hara, he probably won't survive it. So what does the Torah do? Be manavel her, make her unkempt, shave off her hair, let her nails grow long, take off the enticing garments, let her cry for 30 days. You'll see her as you come in and out of your house that she's crying away for the loss of her idolatry and her family and this and that. And then what happens? Boo, this is not what I thought. This is not what I wanted. So the Torah is teaching him a lesson, seemingly, ha, you lied. You said that you meant l'shem shamayim. You were chashakta. When you set your eyes on her, you said, I'm going to do a big mitzvah here. I'm going to take this woman, I'm going to convert her, I'm going to make her mamish a Yiddish Afroi. She's going to be mamish so spiritual, she'll be saying Tehillim all day. This is all l'shem shamayim. So the Torah says, okay. So let's 30 days, let's see what happens. Oops, not what I expected. Sounds like the Torah is sticking it to him. But that's not the way the Torah does things. It's not the Torah, is not the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not stick it to you. See? You see? The Torah is doing a tremendous kindliness for this person. What did you do to her? You shaved her hair? Get her a $5,000 sheitel. You let her nails grow long? There's a mani-pedi place around the corner. By the way, you're not allowed to take a mani and a pedi on the same day. But get her a pedicure around the corner. You took off that enticing garment, take it out of the closet, hang it up again. She's back as gorgeous, as enticing as she was before. What's the issue? The answer is the Torah is doing a tremendous kindliness for a person. It's giving him an opportunity to see what makes him tick. What greater kindliness can you do for somebody to give them the ability to know themselves so well, to internalize their motivations so well, to know what really makes them tick, what really motivates them? You believed you were doing a mitzvah l'shem shamayim to take this woman, all for the mitzvah, all l'shem shamayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving you an insight that you should know yourself. Chamar came along and said, Shchem b'ni, my son Shchem, choshka nafshe b'dina, he's all l'shem shamayim. Yeah, he kidnapped her, but that's only because he wants to get close to the 12 tribes. He wants to be Yaakov Avinu's son-in-law. He meant it all l'shem shamayim. Says Rashi, chavtza. Don't believe the choshka. This was just pure chavtza. By the Seitzel Mocham Alevecha, by the Yeshish Yifas Torah, the Torah is doing us a tremendous kindliness. For a person to learn and to know what makes them tick, what motivates them, can carry them for the rest of their life. It's a lesson for the person to learn. The Torah knows, why do you give such a mitzvah that if a person falls into it, he probably won't escape it? Because such a person can learn a tremendous lesson from it. He can learn from it what makes him tick and what motivates him. And by the way, this answers a kasha that the Minchas Chinuch has on the Rambam. Bear with me. Rashi says that you take this woman and you don't live with her for 30 days till you go through the process. The Rambam says not like that. The Rambam says you're allowed to live with her right there in the field of war, in the battle. You can live with her right away. Right away. However, if after you live with her, you see, oops, not what I wanted. Person has regret. You eat that pizza that may not have such a good hechsher on it, and afterwards you say, I didn't have to do that. What did I really gain, right? He had charata. So the Rambam says if immediately afterwards he has charata, he cannot send her away. He has to take her home for 30 days and go through the process. And the Minchas Chinuch says, for what? The whole process is only to get him to not take her and to not keep her. And he already doesn't want her. He already realized, why are you taking her home? You give in to the Aveira and then you realize it really wasn't worth it. The taiva wasn't really worth it. It was just imaginary. It was a dimyan. So why does the Rambam say to take her home? And now we understand why. Perfect. Because there's a lesson to learn. If you live with her in the field and you decide, okay, it wasn't really worth it, and you walk away, you didn't learn the lesson. You didn't learn what makes you tick. All you did is you had a lifetime of regret. I did this, I regret it now. I didn't get from it what I thought I'd get from it. So according to the Rambam, it's beautiful. You can't walk away from it because you have to learn the lesson. Don't fall off your chairs. The Zohar says, Yerech Yamim is such an odd terminology, we asked. Say Shloshim Yom, 30 days, Chodesh Yamim. Says the Zohar, I'm just quoting it. Yerech Yamim, Dohi Yarcha de Elul. This is the month of Elul. Again, the Torah says for 30 days you go through this process, Yerech Yamim, that's the month of Elul. What? The war was in Kislev. The war was in Cheshvan. The war was in Tammuz. What's the Zohar telling me this is the month of Elul? But you understand already. This is what Elul is all about. For a person to introspect, to reflect, and realize what makes him tick. Not to deflect and say, it wasn't so bad. I slept late. Get up late. I'll be able to have more time to learn. I'll have more of a cup to learn. But Dohi Yarcha de Elul. Elul was given for this reason, to introspect and not deflect. The guy who went out to war deflected. He thought he meant L'Shem Shemayim. The ant believes she's not a thief. Deflection. Dohi Yarcha de Elul is to internalize, for a person to realize honestly what really makes him tick. Perhaps that's why you need vidui. I know I regret what I did, and I'm never going to eat that thing again, or I'm never going to do that Aveira again. But unless I express it verbally, even between me and myself, I'm not really targeting what happened and what I need to perfect. In the back of my mind, it wasn't so bad, it was this, it was that, I rationalize, say vidui. Because if you express it verbally, then I understand and I know with myself what it was that I did, and I won't fool myself. That's part one. Part one leaves me with a lot of difficulty to really know what makes me tick, to really be honest in my Elul, so that when I come before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before the throne of glory for justice, for judgment, if I'm really going to be honest, I'm afraid. That's the truth. I'm really afraid. So for that, I'd like to address it. In 1929, the Chofetz Chaim and the Imrei Emes, that was the Gerer Rebbe. And if you don't know what his name was, it was Rabbi Avrohom and Mordechai Alter. Sound familiar? The Chofetz Chaim and the Imrei Emes were traveling on a train to the Knessia Gedolah. The Chofetz Chaim turned to the Imrei Emes and he asked him a question. The Torah says, Achrei Hashem Elokeichem telechu. You should follow after HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'oisei tiro. You should fear him. You should do his mitzvahs. You should hearken to his voice. And you should serve him. Uvoisid bokum. And you should cleave to him. The Chofetz Chaim asked the Imrei Emes that the word acharei means from afar. We learn it from Har Grizim, Har Evo, Achrei Derech Mavoy Hashemesh, the Pasuk says, far away towards where the sun sets. The word acharei means from a distance. Achar means immediately. Vayehi yachar dvorim ha'ela, immediately after these events. So the Chofetz Chaim asked the Imrei Emes, why do you say acharei Hashem Elokeichem telechu. You should follow Hashem from a distance. It should say, Achar Hashem Elokeichem. Immediately follow close. Why from far away? So the Chofetz Chaim answered the Imre Yemes, and I'll tell you what the Imre Yemes said. The Chofetz Chaim answered the Imre Yemes that even if a person feels he's acharei, even if he feels that he's far away and he's not close, don't give up the ship. Rather, Hashem Elokeichem telechu, still strengthen yourself and follow Hashem, fear Him, do His mitzvahs, hearken to His voice, and cleave to Him. Don't give up because I feel far away. And the Chofetz Chaim said that's why in Rosh Hashanah we say the pasuk, Ashrei ish shelo yishkochecha, fortunate is the man who doesn't forget you. Uven Adam, and a man, Yisam Eitzbach, finds strength in you. The word Adam is the lower level of mankind. The word Ish is someone who's already elevated. He's a Ish. Perhaps he has an Ish and a Yud of Hashem, but he's an Ish. The pasuk says, Ashrei Ish shelo yishkochecha. Fortunate is the elevated man who never forgot you. He's walking close to you. Uven Adam, and if it's the lower level of man who has not yet reached that height, Yisam Eitzbach, take strength in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Don't feel too far away. I failed. Go after the Eibishter anyway. Don't give up. It gets complemented with the Imre Yemes. The Imre Yemes said that Al Pi Chassidus, he told the Chofetz Chaim, the more a person feels that he's acharei, Hashem Elokeichem telechu, the more the person feels sad, brokenhearted, that he's far away from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the more Hashem promises that you'll reach the end of the pasuk uvoisid bokun. That's what moves the person forward. Because Leiv nishbar v'nidke elikim loy sivska, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu never disparages from a broken heart. HaKadosh Baruch Hu always loves the one who has the broken heart. So if you feel acharei, and it bothers you, and it hurts you, and you feel, I would like to be so much closer, you feel acharei, says the Imre Yemes, Nishberei Hashem, if Nishberei Leiv, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves, and He promises that you'll reach the end of the pasuk of Uvoisid Bokum. You probably are familiar with the song, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Ashreichem Yisrael, right? It's a popular song, right? It's a Gemara, it's a Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva says, Ashreichem Yisrael, Lifnei mi'ata mitayrim. Before whom do you purify yourself? Hashem Elokeichem. You purify yourselves before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How do you know? Shenemar, the pasuk says, Mikvah Yisrael Hashem. The mikvah, where you purify yourself, where you submerge yourself, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Does this make sense? So help me out with the end of the Mishnah. If we understand that, why does the Mishnah continue? Why does Rabbi Akiva continue? Ma mikvah mitaris atmeim. Just like a mikvah purifies those who are tamei, af HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitaris atmeim, mitaris Yisrael. So too HaKadosh Baruch Hu purifies Klal Yisrael. Again, the Mishnah said, Lifnei mi'ata mitayrim mi mitareschem. From how do you get tahor? How do you get purified? You're toivel on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mikvah Yisrael Hashem, the mikvah of Klal Yisrael, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So how do you get purified? You cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You immerse yourself in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is he adding by saying, just like a mikvah purifies someone who is not pure, who is tamei, so to HaKadosh Baruch Hu purifies. You already said that in the beginning of the Mishnah. Do we hear the question? Yeah, right? I would like to suggest the answer is the following. And have it in mind when you sing the song. If a person is tamei tumas keri, it's a type of tumah, he has to go to the mikveh. How many dunks does he have to take in the mikveh? How many submergings? No? 1. Keri? 1. What if he's about keri and he's about zav? He had ziva. He's a zav. He has to toivel in the mikveh. How many dunks does he have to take? 1. What if he's about keri, about tamei ziva, and tamei sheretz? He touched the sheretz. Now he has 3 tumas on him. How many tefillas does he have to make? 1. That's what Rabbi Akiva added. The way that a Yid purifies himself is by submerging himself, cleaving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And no matter how achrei a person may feel, I'm tummy this, I'm tummy that, I'm tummy the other, I did this, I did that, I did the other, I am so far away, says Rabbi Akiva, one submerging. Toivel in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the mikveh of Yisrael. One tefillah, one submerging, one connecting, one dveikis in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no matter how distant a person may feel, ma mikveh mitaras hatmeim, af HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitaras Yisrael. I ran out of time, but I'm going to tell you one story because Rabbi Salinger wanted to know if I'm going to tell a good story. So I'll give you one story, and I'll leave the Gemara out that I wanted to share with you in Tainus. Rabbi Yisrael Mishklov, who was a student of the Vilna Gaon, made Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. On the way, on the ship, there was a terrible storm. The ship was smashed apart, and everybody was thrown into the water. He had his young son and his young daughter with him. He told them to hold on to his shoulders as he would swim to shore. He swam and he swam and he swam until his strength was totally depleted and he could swim no more. He knew he could not carry both children any longer. He turned to his children and he said, "My children, I love you both. I won't make it to shore carrying both of you. I have to let one of you go. Work it out." But the Rambam says, since a man has more mitzvahs than a woman, then you have a choice of only saving one or the other. You save the male because he has more mitzvahs. Sounds challenging. It's practical. We have to deal with it and learn with it and understand it. And he said to his daughter, "My dear daughter, I love you, but the halacha mandates that I let you go and save your brother." And she began to cry. "But Father, you're the only father that I have. I have no other father besides you. How could you abandon me?" And she cried with such emotion that Rabbi Yisrael Mishklov strengthened himself, told her to hang on, and kept swimming and swimming till they reached the shore, and he collapsed in a dead faint. When he woke up, he said to his daughter, "Remember this for the rest of your life. The Rebbeinu Shalom is also a father. Whenever you're in a situation that you feel yiyush, you feel giving up, you feel there's no more, I can't raise myself to that level, I can't go on spiritually, I can't go on physically, whatever the case may be, cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're my father. You're my only father. I have no other father besides you. Don't abandon me. Help me. Assist me. Avinu Malkeinu, Ein Lanu Melech Ela Oto. Rebbeinu Shalom, we have no other king and no other father besides you. Even if we have no Maisim Tovim, have compassion on us, help us, strengthen us, bring us to the level of Torah and Yerushalayim that in our hearts we know that we seek. And the Eibishter will help every single one of us to approach Rosh Hashanah with an honesty, with a reflection, not a deflection. We'll be honest with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We will say vidui just to ourselves, so we don't fool ourselves and rationalize, this is what it was, this is what I want to be. Rebbeinu Shalom, you're my father, my only father. You help me that I should be Zaycha to a Shana Tova U'Mesuka.